Tuesday, March 12th, and a Fox News alert. While you were sleeping, the Trump administration taking new action in Venezuela with the urgent withdrawal of all U.S. personnel.
The breaking developments and the major warning opposition leader Juan Guaido has for the far-left Democrats right here at home.
I will fight every day until he is impeached. Impeach 45.
We're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
Well, how about this? The left's impeachment rally cry is now being silenced by Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, the case against removing the president from office from one of his biggest critics in Congress. And a delivery driver drops off a package and picks up a shovel.
And the reason behind this simple act of kindness will melt your heart, we promise. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Very first concert I ever went to was Billy Ray Cyrus.
Really?
That's a true story.
Really?
Good morning.
That's interesting.
You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Tuesday morning. I'm Jillian Mealy.
I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for getting up early with us. And right to a Fox News alert this morning. What a mess it has become. The U.S. withdrawing all American diplomats from Venezuela as that country spirals into chaos after a nearly week-long power blackout.
Todd Pyro is here with more on the announcement overnight as conditions continue to very quickly deteriorate in the socialist country. Todd?
Good morning, Rob and Jillian. A major escalation in the tension between the U.S. and Nicolas Maduro. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo tweeting, quote, the U.S. will withdraw all remaining personnel from the U.S. Embassy in Venezuela this week. This decision reflects the deteriorating situation in Venezuela, as well as the conclusion that the presence of U.S. diplomatic staff at the embassy has become a constraint on U.S. policy. This all comes as Venezuela remains in a blackout, thousands in darkness from a power outage, widespread looting causing havoc in Caracas, humanitarian aid offered to help the Venezuelan people refused by Maduro. Yet despite the almost universal repudiation of Maduro on the world stage, Pompeo says some countries continue to support the rogue regime.
Moscow, like Havana, continues to provide political cover to Maduro regime while pressuring countries to disregard the democratic legitimacy of the interim president Guaido.
As for opposition leader Juan Guaido, he was on exclusively with Trish Regan talking about his fight and warning about the perils of socialism to an American left that seems enamored with it.
I invite everyone to see what's going on in Venezuela, the amount of displaced persons in our country, and the drama that it's become, the day-to-day living of seeking out food, water, or simply having power.
And this next piece is crucial. Guaido has said he will invoke a constitutional provision allowing the Venezuelan Congress to authorize foreign military operations to intervene. Back to you.
All right, Todd, thank you for the update.
Okay, other news now. Memorial services begin today for a sheriff's deputy murdered in Illinois. Deputy Jacob Keltner was gunned down while trying to serve an arrest warrant at a Rockford hotel. Accused killer Floyd Brown appeared in court for the first time. A judge denied him bond, claiming that he's a flight risk. Brown could face the death penalty for murder charges. Deputy Keltner spent 13 years on the force, and he leaves behind a wife and 2 sons.
Moments ago, Australia joining several countries in suspending the use of Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes after that model crashed for a second time in months, killing 157 people, including 8 Americans in Ethiopia. Some American lawmakers want the entire fleet grounded in the U.S. as well. Senator Dianne Feinstein writing to the FAA, quote, continuing to fly an airplane that has been involved in 2 fatal crashes within just 6 months presents an unnecessary, potentially life-threatening risk to the traveling public. The FAA warns against comparing the crashes and says the planes are still, quote, airworthy.
Right now, British Parliament debating the new Brexit plan. Prime Minister Theresa May and European Union leaders agreeing on a last-minute change to that divorce deal in France overnight.
MPs were clear that legal changes were needed to the backstop. Today, we have secured legal changes. Now is the time to come together to back this improved Brexit deal and to deliver on the instruction of the British people.
impressive she got those changes made after nobody in England went for her first plan. Parliament will vote on the new Brexit plan today at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. If this vote doesn't pass, Brexit could be delayed, or the UK could end up crashing out of the deal with no deal, and that could cause an economic catastrophe.
President Trump unveiling a record $4.7 trillion budget proposal for 2020. Democrats already voicing their opposition. Senator Patrick Leahy saying, quote, "This is not a serious proposal," adding it is, quote, "dead on arrival and divorced from reality." The budget request includes $8.6 billion for 722 miles of the border wall and $72 million to fund 100 new immigration judges. The administration says the proposal also includes strategic cuts.
From day one, this president has put forward spending reductions in his very first budget that were the most in history of any president in history. So we're going to both grow the economy over 10 years, and we're going to continue to put forward spending reductions.
In addition, it includes a vast welfare overhaul requiring Americans 18 to 65 years old work at least 20 hours to be eligible for benefits and aid.
Dive more into all that in about 5-6 minutes or so. I am not for impeachment. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi with a big statement. She says she is against attempting to throw President Trump out of office, a proclamation that could really alienate fellow Democrats.
Griff Jenkins joins us from Washington with the latest reaction. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Jillian and Rob. Yeah, Speaker Pelosi says President Trump is, quote, "just not worth it," sending a clear message to some members of her own party, telling the Washington Post this, quote, "Impeachment is so divisive to the country that unless there's something so compelling and overwhelming and bipartisan, I don't think we should go down that path." She then doubled down with reporters in the hallway.
I just don't believe in it. They wanted me to impeach President Bush for the Iraq War. I didn't believe in it then. I don't believe in it now. It divides the country unless there's some conclusive evidence that takes us to that place.
Pelosi's comments reflect a sentiment held among Democratic leadership that moving forward with impeachment could backfire, but the more outspoken freshman Democrats are having none of that. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez disagreeing with Pelosi, telling the Washington Examiner, quote, "I wouldn't say she's completely concrete. Should the Mueller report drop and we see something, I wouldn't count anything out." Last week on the Hill, Representative Rashida Tlaib saying she intends to introduce articles of impeachment.
If we don't hold impeachment proceedings today, start them today and hold him accountable to following the United States Constitution, think about that. This is not going to be the last CEO that runs for President of the United States. This is not going to be the last person that tries to get away with this.
The White House has not commented. In a little historical perspective for you, by the end of President Bill Clinton's impeachment trial, his approval ratings had risen 7 points, and Democrats had 5 seats in the House in the 98 midterms. Guys?
All right, Griff, thanks so much.
Let's talk about this for a second. Democrat Stacey Abrams is not rolling out a 2020 White House run. Abrams tweeting in part, quote, "20 years ago, I never thought I'd be ready to run for president of the United States before 2028. But life comes at you fast. Now 2020 is definitely on the table." This as fellow Democrat Beto O'Rourke fuels 2020 speculation by announcing his first trip to Iowa. He's expected to campaign for Democratic Senate candidate Eric Giddens. Abrams and O'Rourke would join a very crowded field of 2020 hopefuls if they run. And it keeps on growing.
All right, trying to win back Wisconsin again. The DNC announces it'll hold its 2020 convention in Milwaukee. The city winning out over finalists Houston and Miami. Committee Chair Tom Perez saying Milwaukee embodies the party's focus on the working class. Apart from Chicago, Democrats have not held a national convention in the Midwest since 1916.
Super Bowl 52 most valuable player Nick Foles signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The former Philadelphia Eagles QB will reportedly sign a 4-year, $88 million contract.
Plenty of money. He led the Eagles on a pair of playoff runs the last 2 years as a backup, including their first Super Bowl title.
That's right.
All right, 10 minutes after the hour, fires, darkness, sheer chaos, the crisis in Venezuela spiraling even further out of control right before our eyes. But Congresswoman Ilhan Omar says it's all a lie, what she just blamed the president for.
Sweeping changes for entitlement programs like food stamps outlined in the president's 2020 budget. Is this setting up a brand new budget? We'll ask the former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Department of Homeland Security. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. Good morning to you. Welcome back. Tucked inside President Trump's record $4.7 trillion budget proposal is a request for more than $8 billion to build the border wall.
Yeah, the request comes days before Senate Republicans white-knuckle their way through a vote on his emergency declaration. So what's it going to take for the president to get support from his own party on this?
Here to discuss is Lauren Claffey, former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Department of Homeland Security. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let's go ahead and take a look at this breakdown real quick and get your reaction. And it includes an additional $8.6 billion for the wall. $5 billion will come from Congress, $3.6 billion from the military, and that would complete more than 722 miles of the wall, part of, as we mentioned, that $4.7 trillion budget plan. Some people calling this dead on arrival. What do you say?
I think that every budget, unfortunately, is usually dead on arrival, especially when there's a competing party in Congress. Listen, these are great negotiating positions. It lays out, every budget every year lays out the priority of the president that's in power, and so this is no different. And it gives the administration a position to negotiate with as we kick off the congressional budget process with the appropriators, the authority, you know, the authorizers, everyone else. So, I mean, I think that he had to go big, right? He had to make a statement that border security is a big priority of his. So that's not surprising that he went with that number. And also, you know, we've seen numbers as high as $20 billion. That's what he wants in order to build the wall. And so this is actually more reasonable, I think, as a first pass for this year's budget process.
You know, the last time that he did a fight over the budget was the shutdown. That didn't end well for him. He only got 1.3 or something like that. He's declaring this national emergency. Why not just put the full boat into that? I mean, he wants what, $8 billion more now. Why not just get it all at the same time?
Yeah, so I think because the national emergency is not as politically popular as going through Congress, unfortunately. So there is a degree of which they have to, in good faith, negotiate with Congress on each of these priorities. And you know, the budget, the border wall being no different. So for President Trump, you know, there is the national emergency. He can go through that process. He can move funds around as he sees a need because we are in such dire straits on the border right now. But if he can get the will of the people through Congress to support this border wall and have the funding that way, it's going to be better for him in a political sense, because he's not going to have Republican senators trying to break away and like vote on a resolution of disapproval and other things, right? Like, get everybody on board, have everybody support this wall. It should be a no nonsense vote for them, and that's what he's seeking to achieve.
Well, yeah, but how? I guess the question is, how does he make sure he gets everybody on board, especially those from his party?
Yeah, I think it's what the administration has been trying to do, and just not as successfully as I would hope. It's communicating the real need of not only physical barrier at the wall, but also surveillance technology, additional border agents, all of these things that the frontline operators have told us time and time again that they need in order to secure the border. And there has been a spike in illegal immigration on the southern border. That should not be disputed, although it time and again is somehow not talked about in the media in the same way that our CBP officers are seeing it. But there is a need there for him to communicate that more fully, show people what's going on the border, and really build consensus around it. And honestly, like, at least what I saw when we were working on this issue in Congress, I mean, a lot of the time you just got to grab people and take them down to the border and physically show them the people coming across, and it's really the only way to convince their mind.
All right, let's flip to entitlement, welfare reform. The president has some ideas here for his proposed budget that might make a lot of conservatives happy. We can bring up some of the bullet points here. You know, you're talking about basically requiring people that want to take food stamps, Medicaid, federal housing, you know, to work, or at least try to work, or to do community service, to contribute in some way to get that money, to get those services. What do you think about this, and what chance does it have making it into the final budget?
I don't think that this actually has a lot of possibility of working its way into the final budget. I mean, welfare programs are there for those who need that. It's, I think, a great statement to say that everyone in America needs to work towards the American dream and that we're not going to be a welfare state. But especially in a divided Congress, I think this is probably not going to go anywhere. That being said, once again, it's a starting point. It's a negotiating point. And I think it speaks loudly to this administration's priorities on reforming a lot of our entitlement systems and making sure that they last into the generations to come. All
right.
Okay.
Lauren Claffey, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. 18 minutes after the hour. Not so picture perfect. The woman clawed by a jaguar while trying to take a picture now says she regrets it. I'm sure she does. But why even risk it? The social media obsession driving people to danger.
And Bill de Blasio has a new plan to save the planet. Meatless Mondays. Carly Shimkus here with what you're saying online.
Welcome back. Freshman Congresswoman Ilhan Omar says the Trump administration is lying about the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines, 24/7 Sirius XM, 7 Sirius XM 115. Here with the online outrage. Hey, Carly.
Hey, good morning, guys. So as Venezuela suffers from a catastrophic humanitarian and economic crisis, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is casting doubt on the Trump administration's position regarding the socialist country, tweeting this: Trump and Venezuela envoy Elliot Abrams cannot be trusted to tell the truth about what's happening in Venezuela. We must continue to question the narrative they provide and promote dialogue instead of intervention. Well, that tweet sparking thousands of reactions from some people who say they are even from Venezuela, including Fern, who says, I am a Venezuelan who is screaming for military intervention like 90% of Venezuelans. Please inform yourself before you repeat lies. Mauricio on Twitter also chiming in saying, pick a group of Venezuelans and ask them what the situation is like. Don't let your ideology and anti-Republican views make you ignore the tragedy currently happening in Venezuela. Nick on Twitter also chiming in saying actual Venezuelans have spoken out and said that they want foreign intervention, Ilhan. It is in fact you who cannot be trusted to tell the truth. So Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has said that military intervention is not off the table. Whether America and Americans are ready for another foreign conflict has yet to be determined.
Well, also sparking outrage and mixed opinions online is Nancy Pelosi and what she had to say about impeachment.
That's right. So House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the president isn't worth dividing the country even further through divisive impeachment proceedings. And boy, is she getting some pushback from some Democrats, including billionaire activist Tom Steyer, who says, is holding the president accountable for his crimes and cover-ups worth it? Is doing what's right worth it? Or shall America just stop fighting for our principles and do what's politically convenient? So over on social media, conservatives are actually supporting Nancy Pelosi. Ronnie says on this she is correct. She should take it another step further and call for an end to all the investigations against the president and get down to the business of governing the country. Grant on Twitter also chiming in saying smart decision, attempting impeachment would energize his base like never before to reelect him. That is so true, and that's why Nancy Pelosi is being cautious on the impeachment front.
Yeah, he's not going to be thrown out of office. It'll never get through the Senate anyway. It's a good point. All right, what is Meatless Mondays? It sounds terrible.
Well, if you want a cafeteria sloppy Joe in New York City, you ain't getting it on a Monday. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio has imposed Meatless Mondays for New York City public schools, saying cutting back on meat a little will improve New Yorkers' health and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We're expanding Meatless Mondays to all public schools to keep our lunch and planet green for generations to come. A little bit of social media reaction. I'm just going to get to one tweet here. Carrie says, I hope de Blasio is going to partake in Meatless Mondays as well. So students will be getting all vegetarian breakfast and lunches on Mondays from now on.
See, like, it's different. I'm a vegetarian, so that's by choice. But if it's not by choice, that's kind of a tough one to throw at people.
Ticket there, Jillian. I agree.
Great article about him yesterday in the Post about how his staff thinks it's ridiculous that he wants to be the president of the United States. Worth the read.
Thanks,
That's not good.
Carly, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
It is 26 minutes after the hour. It's President Trump's signature slogan.
Make America great again. Make America great again. And we will make America great again.
But is that slogan an example of white supremacy, where students are actually being taught that at college?
And freshman Democrats dominating the headlines, but are they dividing the party? Two Democrats here to discuss if Nancy Pelosi has met her match.
Why can't we?
Welcome back. Here's a look at our top headlines this morning. The U.S. is withdrawing all American diplomats from Venezuela as the country spirals into chaos after a nearly week-long blackout. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says embassy staff will leave by the end of the week. Moments ago, Australia joining several countries in suspending the use of Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes. Some lawmakers want all of them grounded in the U.S. after that model crashed in Ethiopia, killing 157 people. It's the second deadly crash involving a 737 MAX 8 in 6 months. The FAA warns against comparing the crashes and says the planes are still, quote, airworthy. And right now, the British Parliament is debating the new Brexit plan. Prime Minister Theresa May and European Union leaders agreeing overnight on a last-minute change to the divorce deal in France. Parliament will vote this afternoon.
All right, members of MS-13 are among 560 suspected criminals rounded up in a massive operation. Interpol sweeping through 8 Latin American countries. Agents recovered more than 850 guns, 38,000 bullets, 20 grenades, and fake police and military uniforms. Think about that. Here at home, ICE making the biggest cocaine bust in 25 years. The Fed seizing $77 million worth of the drug disguised as fruit. The nearly 3,200 pounds of cocaine found inside a shipping container in New Jersey. It came in from Colombia. Democrats divided. Presidential candidates Bernie Sanders and Julian Castro sparring over reparations for descendants of slaves.
There are better ways to do that than just writing out a check.
I don't think that the argument about writing a big check ought to be the argument that you make if you're making an argument that a big check needs to be written for a whole bunch of other stuff.
All right, Castro specifically mentioned Sanders' Medicare for All and free college tuition plans. A Sanders spokesman now firing back, saying in part, quote, I do think that this effort to play politics with it does a disservice to the fact that Senator Sanders has been a lifelong advocate for racial and economic justice. Julian Castro isn't the only 2020 candidate to push the idea of reparations, and Fox News contributor Denon Borelli says, in his opinion, this proves the Democratic pandering has hit a new low.
The whole notion of reparations is ridiculous. This is only showing us how desperate Democrats are. We are seeing how well our economy is doing under President Trump with the rollback in taxes and cuts in regulations. It's lifting all boats. I think the Democrats are trying to separate themselves from this big field that's running in 2020, and they are pandering for black votes, which I find very demeaning.
In addition to Julian Castro, other 2020 Democrats to express some kind of support for reparations at this point have been Senators Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren. Jillian, over to you.
All right, so Democrats divided again after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi goes against her radical freshman on impeaching the president. How big of a concern is this, and is it a reoccurring problem? Our Democrat panel is here to weigh in. Liberal analyst Kathy Aru and Democratic strategist Dee Dawkins-Hagler joining me now. Thank you both for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Want to get the Democrat perspective here. Dee, I will start with you. What do you think? How is Nancy Pelosi doing, and does she have control over her freshman Democrats?
Yes, good morning. I think that Speaker Pelosi is doing a phenomenal job. I like the idea that she is listening at times to the new Democratic leadership, because we embrace new and bold ideas, the Democratic Party. We are the party of the big tent, so we appreciate diversity. This does not mean that they will dictate which path she would take, because as you saw yesterday, she was like, the president's not even worth impeachment. But however, she does allow others to have a voice, a strong voice in Congress, which I think is a great thing. Well,
Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and then, you know, Kathy, you talk about the latest, what's been going on with Ilhan Omar, and especially last week, not naming her specifically. A lot of people still kind of upset in that when you're talking about the resolution.
Yeah, they're upset about it, but it kind of shows that Ms. Nancy Pelosi, she knew what she was doing. Speaker Pelosi is making both sides happy. So instead of mentioning Representative Omar, she made it an anti-hate resolution. So she made her party happy.
Isn't that the easy way out, though? I mean, shouldn't we all condemn hate, Kathy? Sorry to interrupt you, but it seemed like the easy way out.
Well, it was the proper way out. I think it made everyone happy. It made her party happy. She listened to both sides. She's experienced. She's seasoned. I've interviewed her 3 times. I mean, we need a seasoned politician like Pelosi in D.C., as much as people hate to admit that. And I don't think they're schooling her. I think she's schooling them. They're both learning from each other. And at the end of the day, Pelosi's going to show them how to do it. And the anti-hate resolution, it's fine. We won't remember it in a week. Everyone's going to be happy. They're going to move on to the next issue.
I don't know.
The next Trump tweet.
Dee, it really does seem like the freshmen are ruling the school, if you will.
I just love the idea that the freshmen are coming with all of this excitement. I mean, just look at them. They're coming with these bright ideas. Ayanna Pressley is coming saying that 17-year-olds should be able to vote. I mean, you have Representative AOC saying that we should have this new Green Deal. I mean, it's given us a lot to talk about in this country. And let's just think about it. When John Boehner was in control and the speaker, you had the Tea Party who was going way to the right, and now they're the Freedom Party. But it didn't mean that he could not govern. It just means that people came with different ideas.
So you talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez specifically. You just mentioned her date. I have this question here that I want to ask you guys. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and take a listen here to a couple of examples.
Medicare for all would save the American people. Why are we incorporating the cost of all the funeral expenses of those who die because they can't afford access to health care? We should be excited about automation because what it could potentially mean is more time educating ourselves, more time creating art.
Kathy, I mean, a lot of people argue that she's the greatest gift to the Republican Party because a lot of times what she says, people end up having to correct. So my question to you is, if you could tell her or any freshman from the Democratic Party one thing, what would it be right now?
To not listen to me. From the very start, I thought she was way off. I said socialism, Green Deal. Oh gosh, she's completely wrong. She's a disaster. She's going to kill the party. She doesn't even understand what socialism is. And she's getting that megaphone. She's making waves. She's controlling the conversation. So if she's the greatest gift to the Republicans, it's like Trump's the greatest gift to the Democrats, and he's president. So in our new world, I think she shouldn't listen to us. Don't listen to me. I didn't know what I was talking about.
Okay, Dee, just a couple seconds, real quick. Same question.
You know what? I think that they are doing a phenomenal job. And sometimes you have to have that pushback in order for us to be progressive and to go forward. So if then nothing else, though, I do think at times they do need to be respectful to the more seasoned members. But at the same time, it takes all of us to make this party work. So I'm just glad that we are the Big Ten party and have so much diversity within the Democratic Party.
Okay. Dee, Kathy, it looks like you guys are going the way of the Socialist Party. That's just what I'm saying. Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
My goodness.
37 minutes after the hour, Senator Elizabeth Warren fighting with Facebook. Why the social media giant is backtracking after deleting her campaign ads.
And a delivery driver drops off a package and picks up a shovel. The reason behind this simple act of kindness will melt your heart. You don't want to miss it. Hope you're having a good morning so far. Welcome back. Time for checking the forecast.
Spring is here, yes, Dean. I could feel it yesterday in my bones.
Oh, it may be here, but it's not happening across the northern Rockies. Let's take a look at the maps. Here are current temperatures. So, yeah, we got 40s on the map. We got 30s, and it's 19 in Minneapolis. Let's take a look at it. We've got a big winter storm that's cranking up across the Rockies, moving into the Plain States. We're going to see blizzard conditions. We could see flash flooding. We could see tornadoes tomorrow. So this is a big deal. Here's our winter storm warnings as well as blizzard warnings as this system gets cranked up across the northern plains and the northern Rockies. And then we've got flash flooding concerns across parts of the Midwest. So this is a big deal. Several feet of snow is possible, and with the blowing snow, that's going to create blizzard conditions. Then the flash flooding across the plain states, and even the threat of tornadoes as we get into today and tomorrow for parts of Texas and into parts of Oklahoma, as well as New Mexico. So there's the tornado threat. There's your forecast today. So that's going to be the big system we're going to be talking about as we go through the next 24 to 48 hours. Meanwhile, as Rob said, it will be 46 here in New York City. So enjoy.
It was like 55 yesterday. The sun was beating down. I had the sunroof open on the car.
Did you take pictures?
I did not take any pictures. Oh.
Thanks, Janice. Okay.
I'm not into pictures like you guys.
Facebook versus Elizabeth Warren, the social media giant doing an about-face after pulling her campaign ads.
Tracy Carrasco from our sister network Fox Business here to explain exactly what happened. Tracy.
Good morning. Yes, Facebook took down some of the ads, the political presidential campaign ads for Senator Elizabeth Warren after she called for the company, for Facebook, to be broken up. The ads also calling for a lot of these big tech companies like Amazon, Google to also be broken up as well because they were just too powerful for consumers. They had more power than the regular people. So now after the report in Politico, Facebook did restore the ads. They said in a quote, Facebook said, "We removed the ads because they violated our policies against use of our corporate logo. In the interest of allowing robust debate, we are restoring the ads." So really, they are saying it was more about the corporate logo, not so much what the ad said. Thank you, Tracy.
All right.
Come on over here, Tracy.
Yeah, come on over. We have a lot of, there she goes. We bring a lot of questionable food onto this program, but today we have something everybody likes.
That's right. It is free pancake day at IHOP, and with every free short stack, guests are encouraged to donate for today's Flip It Forward event for kids. IHOP hopes to raise $4 million for charity today. One partner, an example, is the Children's Miracle Network hospital. So, in honor,
I'm going to syrup.
Everybody dig in.
I'm going to do the syrup.
Yes, please do.
I got the old-fashioned syrup here.
And by the way, while Rob's pouring the syrup, a lot on mine, please. This is today from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Select locations participating until 10 p.m. So, go on, get your pancakes, people. Roberto, thank you.
Yes, of course.
Are we all doing the traditional syrup?
I got the strawberry happening.
Strawberry.
I'm not going to say any words during this segment.
Yeah. No, this is going to be another one of those awkward, you can sit at home and just watch us eat in silence.
Oh, my God.
Are these this is not the perfect stack of pancakes, though? I mean, if this doesn't get you up in the morning, I don't know what does.
Do you guys put butter on your... I mean, I know we have a little thing of butter here, but I normally don't. Because the syrup's sweet enough.
What fun are you?
So good.
In between
Have you heard what her diet is? I mean, this is...
slab of butter.
This is really good. This is not...
Gosh.
Are we supposed to be talking?
Eating.
Is this keto friendly?
No.
No?
Maybe better today.
Nothing good is.
Good cause.
That's not true.
Don't worry about it today.
There are good things that are keto friendly. Rob, it's your turn to talk. Do you want me to do it? Okay. It is 45 minutes after the hour. The woman clawed by a jaguar, we told you about this, trying to take a selfie, now says she regrets it. But why risk it? My goodness. Some people just want to get noticed for something good or bad when it comes to social media. A clinical psychologist here live to take us inside the human psyche of social media obsession.
But first, as we try to look around Janice needs, who needs more syrup? Oh, there she goes. Janice is getting more syrup. Hey, Brian, you want some pancakes?
No, thanks. Someone's got to actually talk while you guys eat. And if Janice is, we got to go over basics television with Janice. Anything? Does she want to stand in front of the camera while we split the screen and just complete it? Hey, let me tell you what's coming up over the next 3 hours. We're not going to be able to eat, but we'll be able to talk. Judge Napolitano will be here and talk about the president not fearing now impeachment if you're to listen to Nancy Pelosi. Will she be able to get the rest of the Democrats in the House to go along with it? And Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri will not be voting for the president's resolution, emergency resolution at the border. Why? He says it's unconstitutional. There's huge pushback on that. And is this the time to abandon the president? And as we hear the plates click and the forks go up and down, Mike Huckabee will also be with us. And Andy Puzner will actually review what we were doing with the president submitting when it comes to his budget. And guess who is going to be getting into the race? It looks like Joe Biden in 1 week. It looks like Beto O'Rourke in maybe 2 weeks. And Stacey Abrams, it seems like you don't have to win an election to try to win the presidency. We'll talk about all that and so much more while I urge you to get something to eat. But first, get dressed.
Sorry, Brian, we were very distracted. I'm not going to lie to you. We weren't listening.
Look at how much damage Todd has done.
See you in a moment.
That's unbelievable.
Roll
Thanks,
the pillow
Brian.
commercial.
We'll be right back.
By a jaguar at an Arizona zoo is recovering this morning and apologizing for leaning into the animal's enclosure.
Yeah, the zoo says she got too close while trying to take a picture, although she says that she wasn't. That's her claim. But if that is the case, that she was too close trying to get this photo, why are people willing to risk so much just to get a perfect picture?
Joining us now to explain is clinical psychologist Norman Freed. Thanks for your time this morning. This topic drives Rob absolutely insane because he is not about the pictures on social media, but so many people right now are.
Right.
Why are people doing this?
I call it something named social selfie seduction behavior, where we find ourselves actually almost craving that 5 minutes of notoriety and fame. But on social media, we actually have that chance for 5 minutes of fame every single day. And so what happens is there's this preoccupation and ritualization of our behaviors. We ruminate over how we can get that one shot that'll go viral. And we find ourselves actually becoming reckless in our actions. And the reason behind this is that there's neurochemical shifts in our brain when we see ourselves in the public eye.
Yeah.
So we have these cascades of neurotransmitters that give us a head rush when we're getting likes on Facebook or more and more viewers on Instagram.
Yeah. This is self-esteem for a lot of people. This is how they get it. If you look at some of these numbers, it's unbelievable to say this, but taking selfies in a 6-year span from 2011 to 2017 killed 259 people around the world.
Right.
It's unbelievable. I mean, and people are falling off cliffs to get a picture of themselves.
That's right. And what's happening is that we're a culture now that is trying so hard to create an outer self, a public image that is so often incongruous with our inner world, which is a world that is often filled with emptiness or loneliness or shame and low self-esteem. We'll do things that are even reckless and lose judgment just so that we can actually get notoriety.
But then you hear the stories of people, living in this world online, but then it actually makes them more depressed and having a harder time in their actual life because so much of what they're doing is just looking through social media, looking at other people's so-called perfect lives.
Yeah, it's interesting. Life is really what happens when you're making other plans. And when you're spending your days staring at the computer screen, you're missing out on what's going on around you. Just recently, I was in Honduras with my son and my brother, and we were paving roads, dirt roads, and making sewers. And I think a cure for selfie seduction syndrome would be to actually catch yourself taking a selfie of doing humanitarian efforts. We have a president who says, let's make America great again. And we are a country that is known for humanitarian efforts. So in making America great again, we're actually making humanity great again.
Let's hear from this woman. We want to hear. There was an interview with her, and she talks about how this happened.
The black jaguar was up against the fence, and we happened to be walking by, and we said, hey, let's get some good pictures.
Was it worth it?
No, not worth it. Not worth it at all.
Doctor, let's broaden this out. I mean, you look at the impact that all of this, phones, social media, this has all changed our lives so dramatically in the last 15, 20 years. We're almost like a different species with all this technology. What is this doing to people mentally?
I fear that it's creating almost an addiction, not unlike other types of cravings. We have a craving brain, and we're all made with the need for dopamine high. That's what kept us alive, so say, biologically. But the new rush is the chance to go viral and be seen doing things that are interesting and different. And I say, let's get caught doing things that are kind. Let's get caught taking selfies of feeding the poor or fixing roads in hurricane-torn cities. And then our addiction is used for a good cause.
It's
still an addiction.
It almost seems like we're at the point of no return with social media,
I really
honestly.
hope that's not true.
Doc, thanks so much for coming on this morning. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
We're coming right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. A small college claims the slogan "Make America Great Again" symbolizes white supremacy. Reed College in Portland, Oregon has been using this pyramid to help train their RAs.
It lists MAGA as covert white supremacy just below racial slurs in the KKK. In response to the backlash, the school says in part, quote, "It's provocative and that was the intention, was to present the RAs with something provocative and spur a conversation."
Interesting defense.
Your comments pouring in, mostly questioning the college. One user writing on Instagram, quote, "Making America great has nothing to do with white supremacy. It's all about America. Communist education is the biggest problem."
Lisa simply says, wow. Michelle asks, where was all the MAGA hysteria when Reagan and Bush used it? Trump didn't come up with it and wasn't the first or the second to use it. All right, time now for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we start with the good. A delivery driver's good deed caught on camera. The Good Samaritan shoveling snow off the porch for a mom of 3 who recently lost her husband to cancer. He first heard about this heartbreaking story in Nebraska. When putting air in her tires, he offered to help any way that he can.
Love it.
That's great.
Next, the bad. Apple's AirPods could cause cancer. Hundreds of researchers sounding the alarm, warning radio wave radiation from Wi-Fi and Bluetooth devices is a threat to your health. Apple insists they comply with safety regulations.
Nice. Finally, the ugly. How could anyone forget Nancy Pelosi's very sarcastic hand clap during the president's State of the Union speech? Well, now she's selling merchandise based on that viral moment. Pelosi hawking T-shirts and tote bags on her website that say, quote, patron saint of shade. The House Speaker originally claimed she was not throwing shade and being disrespectful to the president. Now she's backing off that and embracing it.
Interesting. Have a good day.